Hello and welcome to NTD Canada News. I'm your host, Gary Bai. Diversity of thought is mostly encouraged at institutions of higher education in Canada. But on the issue of mandatory vaccination, some Canadian universities have taken an uncompromising stance against alternative views. Conservative candidate Michael Barrett wrote to Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion on September 14th, looking to confirm whether clearance was sought on a book deal with a Chinese state-owned publishing house that published Justin Trudeau's private memoirs in 2016. As it turns out, Canadians aren't the only ones paying attention to the federal leaders' debates. Within hours of the final leaders' debate on September 9th, the Chinese Communist Party-owned Global Times reacted with descriptive accusations and threats, promising that O'Toole's policies would invite, quote, counterstrikes from the CCP if they are enacted. Without further ado, let's get to it. September 14th was day 31 of the federal election campaign. It was the last day to decide on alternative methods of voting. For those who did not choose the advance poll, mail-in ballots, or voting at an Elections Canada's office, they can only turn out on September 20th at their assigned polling station. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau was in Richmond and Brampton, BC on September 14th. Trudeau would propose harder, faster, and even more ambitious measures to cope with climate change. In his speeches, Trudeau was trying to court left-leaning voters to choose Liberal instead of NDP. Conservative leader Erin O'Toole was in Russell, Ontario. O'Toole announced his childcare plan. The plan proposes to convert the childcare expense deduction into a refundable tax credit covering up to 75% of childcare costs for lower-income families. The Tory leader also sent a letter to Quebec Premier François Legault trying to remove concerns about his childcare plan. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was in Toronto, Kitchener, and Windsor in Ontario. Singh accused Trudeau of breaking his promise to lower cell phone and internet bills. He pledges to reverse the decision of Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission and to put a cap on prices. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet was in Cap-Mole and Montreal, Quebec. Blanchet was talking about measures to stimulate the economies of coastal towns and villages in eastern Quebec. Blanchet believes he won support from voters in Quebec after the national debates. Green Party leader Annamie Paul was in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. Paul praised her party's candidates' work in pushing for legislation in PEI. She advocated province collaboration on climate change issues as they cooperated in handling the pandemic. People's Party leader Maxime Bernier was in Ontario with no public events on September 14th. Ontario has issued guidance for businesses to enforce this new COVID-19 certificate system that will come into effect on Wednesday, September 22nd. Patrons will have to show proof of vaccination and ID to enter restaurants, theaters, and gyms. The National Assembly of Quebec is calling on the media broadcasters to apologize for the question it drafted for the English leaders' debate, claiming Quebec has discriminatory laws. In a unanimous vote on Tuesday, members of the National Assembly adopted a motion calling for a formal apology for the hostile trial launched against the Quebec nation during the Anglophone televised debate of September 9th. The debate broadcast group includes APTN News, the CBC, CTV, and Global News, as well as the moderator of the debate, Shashi Kurl, vice president of Angus Reid. The members also adopted a motion condemning the statement made by Kurl in the preamble to her question to Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet. She has been an outspoken Trudeau critic, saying that as an MP she was trotted out for her blackness but was otherwise ignored. She will be voting for Maliha Shahid, the Tory candidate for the Whitby riding that Cesar Chavannes herself once represented. In a column for CTV, she said she is still a Liberal at heart, but was not interested in rewarding the bad behavior of a Liberal leader. Diversity of thought is mostly encouraged at institutions of higher education in Canada. But on the issue of mandatory vaccination, some Canadian universities have taken an uncompromising stance against alternative views. Julie Ponesi, an ethics professor at Huron University College, finds her opinion differs from that of her colleagues. Having taught ethics for 20 years, she believes that vaccination is a personal choice and that the underlying principle of bodily autonomy is a part of an individual's inalienable rights. Although she does not oppose vaccination in general, her views on the issues have led her university to send her on paid leave. In an interview with Educators for Human Rights, Ponesi said she is especially concerned now that minors are forced to vaccinate. She said this threatens their right to education and, quote, these mandates are at best ethically unsupported and at worst gravely irresponsible and medically, psychologically, and ethically devastating. Dr. Stephen Pellick, with a doctorate in biochemistry and professor of the Faculty of Medicine at UBC, has also raised concerns about the risks of COVID vaccines. In an interview with the Western Standard in August, Pellick said, if you're under 19, your chances of having harm from the vaccine is about 4 to 5 times higher than getting infected with SARS-CoV-2 itself. He said the vaccine mandates are, quote, not science-based at all. He told the Globe in an interview that as a result of his comment, he's become persona non grata, or an unwelcome person, in his department, where he has taught for 33 years. Unlike Dr. Panasi, Pellick's employment status has not been affected yet. Conservative candidate Michael Barrett wrote to Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion on September 14th, looking to confirm whether clearance was sought on a book deal with a Chinese state-owned publishing house that republished Justin Trudeau's private memoirs in 2016. After he became Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau's memoir was published by a Chinese publishing company under the title The Legend Continues. According to the Globe, Trudeau's publisher, HarperCollins, struck a deal with the Yiling Press in Nanjing, China, which is owned by Jiangsu Phoenix Publishing and Media, a state-owned enterprise that takes its orders from the propaganda department of the Jiangsu Provincial Communist Party Committee and republished Trudeau's 2014 memoir, Common Ground, in Chinese. Barrett said the book deal was made at a time when Trudeau was actively pursuing building a relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, including discussing a free trade deal and joining the Asian Infrastructure Bank. He wrote, subsequently, Mr. Trudeau has faced many important decisions regarding Canada's relationship with China, including whether to ban Huawei from Canada's 5G network, choosing to partner with a Chinese state enterprise on the development of a COVID vaccine, responding to China's genocide against the Uyghurs, and the crackdown on Hong Kong. The Globe's report noted that former senior security and foreign policy advisors to Trudeau were unaware of the book deal and would have advised him to reject the deal if they had known about it. When asked about the issue during a campaign stop in Richmond, BC on September 14th, Trudeau said he played no role in the deal. When pressed about whether clearance was sought from Dion, Trudeau didn't answer directly. The Ethics Commissioner has cleared all my sources of income many times, he said. Barrett said a book contract with an entity controlled by the CCP would have implications under the provisions in Section 7 of the Conflict of Interest Act. So this is another issue that needs clarification. And coming up, we have Chinese state-owned media comes out against Erin O'Toole and how the leaders are doing in the polls. But first, please subscribe if you're new to this channel and turn on that notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. We'll be bringing you election updates from coast to coast and the latest news coverage. Thank you for your support. Now let's get back to our stories. As it turns out, Canadians aren't the only ones paying attention to the federal leaders' debates. Within hours of the final leaders' debate on September 9th, the Chinese Communist Party-owned Global Times reacted with descriptive accusations and threats, promising that O'Toole's policies would invite, quote, counterstrikes from the CCP if they are enacted. The Conservatives' platform features a detailed plan on the Chinese Communist Party, including fighting for interference and upholding human rights in China. It makes a point of saying that their plan is directed at the Chinese Communist Party and that they support the people of China. The platform prescribes measures to withdraw from the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, ban Huawei from Canada's 5G infrastructure, and further investigate the company's role in providing surveillance capabilities that have been used against persecuted minorities in China, advise universities against partnerships with China's state-owned enterprises and organizations, and prohibit federal granting councils from participating in these relationships, and crack down on China's foreign influence operation on Canadian soil. The state-owned Global Times apparently counted 31 times that the Chinese regime is referred to in O'Toole's plan, saying that the conservative leader has a, quote, unusually hostile stance against the communist regime. Here's a snapshot of what O'Toole said.
Canada's voice has been absent, Mr. Trudeau. We have not worked with our allies on Huawei. We have not stood up for the 300,000 Canadians in Hong Kong. We've not fought for the two Michaels and put pressure on the communist regime. We have not stood up for human rights. Sir, you did not show up for a vote declaring a genocide towards the Uyghur people. You didn't show up. Canada is the country that was leading the fight against apartheid. We created the UN Human Rights Code. We should be leaders for our values, sir.
This is the first time that CCP-backed media has openly made a comment regarding the 2021 Canadian federal election. Richard Lee, a spokesman for the Toronto-based Chinese community organization, Canadian Platform Advocacy for Community Awareness, said the CCP is concerned about a possible conservative government. He said the CCP is attacking O'Toole because his policies on the CCP. If we compare the latest Nanos poll released on Tuesday with that of one a month ago on August the 12th, the largest increase was achieved by People's Party of Canada from 1.9% to 6.7%, while the Green Party dropped the most from 7.9% to 3.8%. The Conservatives recorded a small increase from 28.4% to 31.2%, and the NDP recorded a small decrease from 20.7% to 18.9%. The Liberals' change is quite minimal from 33.4% to 32.3%, and Bloc Québécois remains quite stable from 6.3% to 6.4%. Ledger, which was the most accurate pollster in the 2019 election, released its latest poll on September 13th. The poll showed Conservatives tied with Liberals at 32%, NDP at 20%, Bloc Québécois at 7%, People's Party at 5%, and Green Party at 3%. With the close of the Vance polls at 9 p.m. on Monday, Elections Canada estimated nearly 5.8 million Canadians cast Vance votes. This number is about 900,000 more than the Vance ballots of the last federal election. Special ballots also closed at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. Elections Canada's website revealed only about 1.2 million Canadians chose to vote through special ballots. This means mail-in votes as a part of special ballots may be well below 1 million. This is much lower than the earlier forecast of 2 to 3 million from analysis of Elections Canada. With that said, thank you for watching NTD Canada News. If you like this video, please give us a like and share. It will help more people see our channel. We'll be back with more comprehensive election coverage, and we'll see you next time.